don't do that. Don't do what I did. Don't skulk off to some tropical island with a strange man. Don't do it. You know, it's just not safe, but it was worth it. We had our first date in Turks and Caicos. And over the course of that 4 or 5 days, like, I fell completely head over heels, just smacked in the face with love. Hey girl, welcome to the first episode of Cafecito y Chisme, where I'm spilling all the tea and the hot goss about my personal life just to get to know you a little bit better and just kind of talk intimate, more one-on-one as girlfriends. And for all my güeritas out there who don't know what chisme is just the Spanish word for gossip. And we all love a little hot goss once in a while, and I don't really like to talk about other people, so I'll just spill my own tea and tell you things about my life. You know, I've had so many crazy experiences and unbelievable things happen in my life, and it's like a crazy movie. But today I wanted to share for the first episode of Cafecito y Chisme my experience with fairytale love, because I will tell you that it is real and princess treatment is real. And if you are jaded from a past relationship or still, you know, a skeptic, I tell you it's out there. Now, before I share with you kind of how this fairy tale love unfolded, I wanted to give you a little bit of background. But first, this is Zolsa. If you are new around here, this is the star of the show. She's 8 years old now. And I'm Lindsey Servin, and Truthatude TV is my channel where I talk about confidence. This new series, Cafecito y Chisme, is more of an intimate, one-on-one, girls just talking to each other, kind of spilling the tea, informal, casual, try to make it as cozy as possible. I got my whoopee here. I got my a beverage. It's not cafecito, it's actually tea, and it's my second favorite mug. Can you see that? How cute is that? So to give you a little bit of background before I dive into like how I experienced this fairy tale love, it's important to know that I was coming fresh out of an abusive relationship, and he wasn't physically abusive to me, but he was violent. He was violent around me, and during the course of our relationship, the violence and the explosive temper continued to escalate. And after I broke up with him, it was very scary, and it was, you know, a courageous thing to do, but it took me a while to recover. And during that period, I chose to be single for a year and just try to piece back together the person that I was. And I went from being this vivacious, lively, outgoing person, so full of life, and I was in love with love, to being jaded and shattered and just like a shadow of my former self. Like I didn't even recognize who I was. I was so timid, and I just became so small, and I just shrunk. And I hated men. I actually hated men, and it was just not a good way to be. And I had lost faith in relationships. I was just so done, you know? And the crazy thing is that life gives you exactly what you need in the moment that you need it, whether you want it or not. So I was working this pretty prestigious job, and I had attended an event, and I met another person attending the same event, and there was multiple parts to this event. It was for like several days, and we had to go to multiple dinners and events. And so, you know, he was in my group this whole time, and I didn't really interact with him much. We chit-chatted a little bit on the bus while we were going to and from places, but it was one night that we had one of our group dinners, and he and I kind of got to chit-chatting a little bit. But then after dinner, I sent him a text message and was like, drinks downstairs? Because we were in a hotel, right? And he said yes, and I was not like that. Like, I was so shy, and I would never initiate that. But I did, and it was so scary. And he said yes, and so we went downstairs, and we had drinks in the hotel bar, and we just talked and talked and talked and talked and talked. And I live in Florida, and he lived in New York. And so, like, I didn't care. I was never going to see this guy again, you know? So, cliche, we went back to his hotel room and nothing happened. I mean, we kissed, but like nothing serious happened. We just kind of like cuddled a little bit, and like I stayed the night, but I didn't, nothing went too far. But like I got up and snuck out of the room, went back to my hotel room. I never thought I was going to see this guy again. Whatever. And he was like this hotshot New Yorker. And I had mentioned to him that I was going to be in New York a couple months from then, and that, just I'm going to be in New York. And he texted me that morning and was like, it was so great connecting with you. And he was like, I'll be damned if I wait until August to see you again. And I was just like, oh, okay. So we continued to talk over the course of a couple of weeks and, tried to make plans to see each other. And he asked me, he said, do you have a weekend free? Could you give me a weekend? And I was just like, sure. And he was like, how about New Orleans? I'm like, yeah, sure, fine, whatever. Just let me know and like I'll book a flight and whatever. And he was like, I got it. Like, okay. And he said, just send me like your name, info so that I can book a flight. And so I sent him my information. And girl, I'm telling you, no fucking lie, the next morning I wake up to a flight confirmation to Turks and Caicos. Like, is this real life? Am I going on a tropical island getaway with this incredibly handsome, he was so sexy, this hotshot, sexy New Yorker? Like, he's just taking me to Turks and Caicos? What? And so I texted him that morning and I was like, Turks and Caicos? He's like, I hope that's okay. You have a passport, right? And I'm like, yeah. And like, I met this guy one time. So of course my like survival instincts are kicking in. I'm like, I could get murdered. But because of who he was and the connections to my job that he had, there was some recourse there. So like I let my best friend who I worked with at the time, I let her know like what this was and who he was, and just so that I didn't get murdered, right? And I decided to go. And I will tell you this, don't do that. Don't do what I did. Don't skulk off to some tropical island with a strange man. Don't do it. It's just not safe, but it was worth it. And there was some recourse there. Like, I didn't know who he was. And, but on that note, because he was a prominent business partner, there was a conflict of interest. And so we had to keep our relationship secret. So fast forward to Turks and Caicos. This was our first date. We had our first date in Turks and Caicos for 4 days, 5 days, 4 or 5 days. And it was a little awkward at first, but he was a complete gentleman. And then over the course of that 4 or 5 days, like, I fell completely head over heels, just smacked in the face with love. And, it could have been the, tropical oasis environment. Like, it could have been that, fabulous, paradise syndrome. It could have been that. And we talked about that. We're like, how do we know that this is real and it's not just, we're both on that vacation high? So after we got back from Turks and Caicos, which was amazing, by the way, it was so beautiful and so much fun and just so romantic. Just everything that's like out of a fantasy novel. It was amazing. Like one of those, smutty romance novels. It was everything. But we decided that he would come to Florida and spend a couple of days just in my ordinary life and hang out with me and my dog and just putz around Orlando and just kind of do everyday stuff to see, you know, are the feelings really there, or was it just because we were in this beautiful, you know, island adventure life, you know? And we really connected. We really hit it off. And so we spent time together over the next few months and had a really beautiful relationship. And, you know, he really opened my eyes to a lot of things. He really stepped into that masculine energy role, and I felt so safe and so just taken care of. And he did treat me like a princess. Like, I didn't have to plan anything. I didn't have to pay for anything. I did offer to pay for dinner one time when we were in Turks and Caicos, and I did it kind of sneaky. I just like went to the bathroom and gave the server my credit card because I wanted to show him that I appreciated like what he was doing. And I also learned over the course of us dating, I didn't know this right away, but he was incredibly wealthy. And I did not know that. He was just like a humble, regular guy, you know, and he wasn't showy. And I learned that he was, you know, a multimillionaire. But it didn't matter. And he finally, you know, when he shared that with me, and I kind of asked him, I was like, you know, you could have any woman in New York, like you're incredibly successful, you're handsome, like you've got it all. And, you know, kind of like, why me, you know? And he just said, like, you're so warm. And that was such a good compliment. Like, that was such a sweet thing for him to say because it was so genuine. And, you know, he wasn't a perfect guy, right? He did have his own things. Like, he was divorced and he had kids and he had a whole life that he needed to kind of tidy up. He was recently divorced when we had met, and there were things that needed to be taken care of on that front. And, you know, as time progressed and we continued talking and seeing each other, you know, it became more difficult to communicate. I was kind of rising through the ranks in my career, and we came to a point where it was a decision that had to be made to either end things or me move to New York and basically just sign up for his life. Because he already had all his little ducks in a row, and like it would just be me kind of being a puzzle piece to fit in this life. And at that point, like, he was like, I'm not going to let you do that. Like, you're doing so well and you're growing in your career and there's just so much opportunity for you that, like, he didn't want to take that from me. And so we decided to end things, but it was such a beautiful breakup because it was bittersweet because there was nothing actually like wrong, right? And it was such a mutual, respectful parting of like, I love you, you love me, but this just isn't, like, the timing and circumstances just don't align for us to make it work. And I don't know, honestly, I think that was a harder breakup than the ones that were tumultuous or, you know, negative breakups where there was bad circumstances. Like, I think it was harder to leave somebody when there was still so much love there and nothing was actually wrong, you know? I think looking back at that now, he is absolutely one of the most significant relationships I've ever had, and, you know, one of the most impactful lovers I've ever had as far as, you know, my experience with relationships and how deep they went. And I'm just so grateful to have that experience because I'll tell you what, it definitely raised my standards. It set the bar incredibly high, and don't ever let somebody convince you that your standards are too high. I would just say that the standards that you are looking for in somebody, make sure that you measure up to them as well. You don't have to be perfect, but make sure that if you want certain things in a partner, that you embody those yourself. And don't look for somebody with the expectation that they're gonna lift you up to be this better version of yourself if you're not already working towards that on your own. I do think it's important to be with somebody who stretches you and who elevates you, but you also have to be on that journey yourself. And you know, people have asked me like, well, why don't you guys try again or get back together or whatever? And I think that what we shared together was just such a beautiful snow globe of memories that if you tried to pack any more experiences into it or try to force anything, it would shatter. And where we are now, you know, we don't really speak now, but it's not like if I ran into him or we did speak, it would be all love. It would be peaceful and joyful, and I have so much respect and admiration for him. And you know, he is one of the first men that I've dated that I actually admired. And I've respected all the men that I've dated, but he's the first one that I ever have actually admired, and who I felt like when I was with him, it inspired me to be a better version of myself and to really want to make him proud. And in my other previous relationships, like I thought I was great and I showed up, you know, the best that I could in my other relationships, but I never felt compelled to try to make my partner proud. And, you know, that was clearly an area of growth for me, but that was definitely one of the things that I noticed. And my hope in like sharing all of this with you is that, you know, there's a lot of people who are down on love. And there's a lot of people who turn one experience into a forever rule in their relationship. And just because something happened to you in one relationship doesn't mean that it's going to happen to you in every relationship. You don't have to make one experience into a rule, right? So like if a guy cheats on you, it doesn't mean that every guy's going to cheat on you. And I really do think that what I learned was give every person a clean slate, but most importantly, give yourself a clean slate. Allow yourself to have a fresh experience with every person, because they're not the person from before. And you're not the same person that you were in that previous relationship. Every time you enter a new relationship, you get the opportunity to be a better version of yourself and a renewed version of yourself. And I'm so thankful that I had this experience with Big. I called him Big because we had to keep our relationship secret and I could never use his name. And it's so funny because to this day, like I've never called him by his first name. I've always called him Big. And it was kind of like a nod from Sex and the City because he was from New York and he was this big important dude. And so it was like, he's my Big. Although Big from Sex and the City was a dog. He was an asshole. My Big was just lovely. I will say too that one of the things that I learned was it took me a long time to get over Big. Years. And I started dating, you know, after he and I ended things, I started dating too soon. And one of the repercussions of that was he had just blown me out of the water. Like he shattered my heart in a million pieces in a good way. He like opened my heart back open and shattered all of the guard that I had around my heart. And he just elevated my standards so much that instead of taking more time to heal from that, I started dating too soon, and I started looking for Big in everybody that I was dating. And I didn't give everybody that I dated a chance to be who they were. I was just trying to recreate the experience that I had with Big with all these other guys that I was dating. And that was a mistake. And I bring that up to say that it doesn't matter what people say as far as how long it should take to get over a significant love. You have to take the time that it takes for you. And it could be months, it could be years, and that's okay. That doesn't mean stop living your life in the meantime, but just be aware. Just be aware that, okay, I'm dating and I'm still not completely over, that person, but I'm going to try to put my heart out there open with a clean slate and not try to recreate that experience with the person that I loved so much, So just trying to give yourself, stay open and give yourself a fresh start and give yourself time to heal. So I hope that this gave you a little bit of hope and kind of renewed your faith in fairy tale love, because it does exist. It really does. And it looks different for everybody, right? So maybe you're not, being whisked away to a tropical island for your first date with a wealthy man. Maybe you're not. Maybe that's, I don't think I'm going to get that again, maybe, put it out there. But, your version of fairy tale love might look different, and that's okay. Don't let other people's jaded, negative mindset kill that for you. Like, hold on to your romantic notions and stay open to love and receiving love in whatever form it comes, and just, be a little delusional. You deserve to be happy and to be blown away and to have all the romance that your heart desires, and it exists. There are people out there who just want to give so much love, and there are so many amazing, beautiful, generous, kind, strong men who do want to step in and just love you and give you love and treat you like the precious person that you are. So don't lose faith in that, and don't let other people dissuade you from that idea. People are, working from their own wounds, and those don't have to apply to you. So I hope that you enjoyed the first episode of Cafecito y Chisme. Let me know in the comments below if you found it interesting or if you like this style. I'm kind of just trying things out, and I'm glad you got to see a little bit of the puppy. I had fun kind of just spilling a little bit of the tea and, just opening up a little bit of my personal life to you. And speaking of Truthatude TV, don't forget to tune in next Tuesday for a regular episode of Truthatude TV. I'm going to be sharing with you my fall reading recommendations, so you don't want to miss that. Hit the subscribe button so that you don't miss any videos. I put them out on Tuesdays. Thank you so much for being a part of the Truthatude community, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Ciao.